Hey Tucker, how's your summer been? Really good, huh? I see you borrowed my shades. Is it too bright in here? Is your future too bright? You need some shades? Apparently Tucker's gotten into my shades. He decided it's summertime and it's bright and his eyes can't take it. So he needed some sunglasses. Hey, it's Anna and Tucker, and we hope you're having a great summer. Today I'm going to go over all the books that I read over the last few months. I didn't read too much in June and July, did a lot of reading in August, but I was gearing up for my Ireland vacation and I just didn't really read too much. So I decided instead of doing a monthly reading wrap-up, I was going to do a summer reading wrap-up. So I have 12 books to go over with you, and I will try to get through them a little faster than I normally do. I know I can really ramble, so I'll try not to ramble today, but I'm excited to share what I've been reading with you because I think I read quite a few good books this summer. What do you think, Tucker? Yeah? Can I see your eyes? Yeah? What do you think? Did I read some good books? Were they good? Tucker thinks so. Look at that. Tucker's going to join us for longer than the introduction. That's amazing, Tucker. Let's see how long he lasts. Anybody want to take some bets? I'm betting 3 books, and I will not give him any commands. How many books do you bet he will stay up for before he goes to nap? Let me know in the comments below. Yeah, hi Tucker. He's feeling the camera today. There must be something about these books. Huh? Yeah. All right, let's get into it. I'm just gonna go in the order that I read them in, with one small exception, and there he goes. He's napping. He didn't even make it one book. I hope you got your guess in before that because he only gave us about 30 seconds before he decided to go take a nap. Anyways, back to the reading wrap-up. I am just going to go in the order that I read the books, with one exception. I read a trilogy. I actually listened to an audiobook trilogy. So I'll do all of those books together because I did spend the entire summer listening to them. But other than that, I'm going to go in the order that I read them in and not necessarily in the order that I kind of rated from lowest to highest. So I have a few audiobooks in here. I have one book that I DNF'd, and I have a few ARCs as well as, some books that have been out for quite a while. So let's get into it. I have my phone with me with notes just in case I forget because I have a lot of books. So let's see. Okay, starting with June. So this was pre-Ireland trip. I had bought several Irish-inspired, takes place in Ireland, written by Irish authors books in the spring and early summer. So June is when I started officially doing my Ireland prep, reading, getting excited about my trip. And if you want to know more about my trip, I did an entire video on it that I will link down below. I include pictures from my trip, stories, and there's a lot of bookish content too. I actually had a whole rant about US versus UK Ireland covers. So if you are interested in watching that, I'll link it in the description box below. But the first book, I didn't put these books in order, and you would think I would, but I didn't. So the first book I read is Calla by Colin Walsh. This is a murder mystery that spans a couple of decades. So it takes place in the Galway portion of Ireland, which is on the west coast, northwest coast of Ireland. It involves a group of kids who are close friends. One of them goes missing, Calla, and she is not found. After she goes missing, they all kind of disperse. So a couple of them stay in their small little town, and a couple of them leave and go to the United States or Canada or whatever. A wedding about 15 or 16 years later brings them all back to the same little town, and they discover more more to the mystery of what happened to their friend. And so this book was really good. I rated this one 4 paws. I really, really enjoyed this one. It was really good. It's told from 3 different perspectives of 3 different characters, and they're all first-person perspectives, but they're all quite different. Probably some of the most unique voices within one book I've read in a really long time. For me, this was like a really complex book to read. I had trouble following a couple of the narrators because of the way the narration was written. And if you pick this book up, you'll know what I'm talking about. A couple of the narrators, it's like one of them is almost written in like stream of consciousness, kind of. And so it's a little hard to track. It was harder for me probably than it would be for an average reader, just because of my brain issues. But overall, I really enjoyed the book. I thought the mystery was really great. There were some really real kind of gritty moments in there that were like a little hard to read. Being a dog lover, there's a few kind of disturbing scenes that involve dogs, and so that was a little hard to get through. But it is crucial to the story. I understand why it's in there. But overall, if you're interested in finding a new kind of mystery thriller writer, I would highly recommend picking up this book. It was really good. Okay, next on my list is another Irish novel written by an Irish author, and that is The Rachel Incident by Carolyn O'Donoghue. And both of these recommendations, the previous one, Kala, and The Rachel Incident, I actually got from my friend over at Spill the Reads. She reads some really great books. I get a lot of good recommendations from her. So if you haven't checked her out before, go and check her channel out. But I rated this one as, let's see, where is it? 4 paws. I also rated this one 4 paws. It was a pretty quick read. It's I think less than 300 pages. Yeah, it's about 280 pages. And this is about a woman who lives in Cork, and she works in a bookshop, and she's like trying to get a degree from Cork University. And she ends up becoming roommates with another guy that works at the bookshop who is gay, but this takes place in the early 2000s, I think. Yeah, like the early 2000s, and so being in Ireland, you know, being gay is not necessarily accepted, and so he is in the closet, but she gets it right away. They become fast friends. She kind of has a thing for an older professor of hers, and so there's this like a book signing that she sets up. The professor just comes out with a book like that's published, but it's like some archaic, you know, thing that like nobody's really interested in. But she sets up a book signing anyways for the book release at her bookshop, and she's like envisioning that, you know, her and the professor are going to talk, and then they're going to like, you know, have a moment and whatnot. Well, that is not what happens. And so then a lot of other things happen that is kind of the catalyst for. And so it's like there's parts that are funny, parts that are poignant and sad. It's really well written, and I just really enjoyed the story quite a bit. It reminded me of like being in my 20s and trying to figure out who I was. If you're looking for just a really good literary fiction that has, you know, some humor, some poignant moments, that kind of thing, I would highly recommend this book. It's very good. All right, so next I'm going to talk about that trilogy that I told you I was listening to on audiobook all summer. I began listening to the trilogy in June as part of my Ireland prep listening and reading, and so the trilogy I'm talking about is called The Dragonheart Legacy by Nora Roberts. And so the first book in the series is called The Awakening. This is a fantasy series that takes place in Ireland and in another fantasy world. It follows a woman named Breen who discovers that her dad, who left her and her mom when she was 10, is not who she thought he was. He was actually from a completely different world, the world of the Fae, and you know, it's like this reimagined world. So it's not, it's I don't know how to describe it. It's like, it's this beautiful take on this kind of like multitude of different kind of fantastical creatures and people. So the world that her dad is from is called Talif. I have no idea how to spell it, but it's Irish, so it probably is not spelled how it's pronounced. But it brings together, you know, people of the Fae, people of the Wise, who are witches, basically, elves, and various other type of, fairies, but they go by another name. I forget what it is. Anyways, so Breen and her best friend Marco kind of discover this world where she finds out that she is descended from various lines of different fae, and is the granddaughter of a dark god who is trying to take over all of the universes. And so I'm going to do the trilogy together because it kind of goes together, but I only recently finished it in August, finished listening to it a couple days ago. The first book is The Awakening, the second book is called The Becoming, and the third book is called The Choice. And I thought that overall this series was amazing. I think individually I did rank each of them. Okay, so I gave The Awakening 4.5 paws, I gave The Becoming 4 paws, and I gave The Choice 5 paws. So overall, I would rank it at like 4.5. Like, it was a really great trilogy to listen to. It was, you know, there were a lot of fantasy pieces, but I wouldn't call it high fantasy. There was a lot of it that was really grounded in our world, or like an older version of our world. Talif almost felt like a medieval version of Earth, if you will. And so, you know, there's these portals to different worlds, and there's these different creatures, and there's, you know, lots of battles and lots of lore and all kinds of things. It's very well written. You do kind of start to notice that the author uses the same phrases over and over again, which gets a little repetitive and it gets a little annoying, but you know, the story is so rich in detail, and the narrator is fantastic. The narrator does voices for everyone. It's narrated by a woman, but I mean, she's amazing at even the male voices, really. So it is a Nora Roberts trilogy, so there is some romance in there, but this isn't really like, the main plot is not the romance. The romance is secondary to kind of the saving of the worlds. That's like, I think, the first plot. The subplot has some romantic vibes, but it's very good. And it's a little spicy at times, but they're very few and far between. Maybe like 1 or 2 scenes per book at most, I think. So if you're looking for, you know, like a moderate fantasy to listen to, I would highly recommend this one. It was very, very good. So that takes care of June. I only read 1 book in July. July is when I took my trip to Ireland, and I took a lot of books with me to Ireland with the intent, thinking that I would have a lot of beautiful places to film myself reading and, you know, checking out a lot of bookstores. None of that happened, really. I did start a book in Ireland, but I didn't finish it until I came home. So, yeah, I was just, you know, busy being on vacation. Yeah. And books kind of fell by the wayside for a little bit. Another recommendation from my friend over at Spill the Reads. I read The Night Guest by Hildur Nutsdotter. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. So this is a translated book. I rated this 4.5 paws. This was very good. It's short, and so it didn't take me very long to read at all, just like a couple of days maybe. And I don't really want to tell you too much about it because it's best if you go into this book not knowing anything, really. It's about a woman who goes to the doctor because she's not feeling well. And then a lot of things happen that are related to her not feeling well. This is like, okay, reading this felt like watching an independent movie. I don't know how you feel about independent movies, but they're kind of hit or miss for me, because a lot of times independent movies are very like cerebral, and it's, you know, the story can be a little disjointed. It can be a little difficult to figure out. The story in here is not difficult to figure out, but it felt very like independent film to me. I don't really know how to like describe it better than that. It was creepy. It was confusing, like in the best way possible though. The writing was really good for a translation. I thought it was very good. There's a few like difficult names because they kept the original names, I think, in the translation, but overall it's really good. And like I said, it's a fast read. And so if you're looking for a thriller, mystery kind of book, I would highly recommend that one. Okay, and now we get into August. I had a very interesting reading month for August. We're at the tail end of August now, but like I said, I took one book, well, actually I took more than one book with me to Ireland. I only started one book in Ireland, and that was The Silent Companions by Laura Purcell. So I started this one in Ireland. I finished it when I came home. And this book is a historical fiction slash creepy ghost story, I think. Gothic. It's very gothic feeling. At first I thought it was a dual timeline, but it's actually a triple timeline, really. But it follows this lady who is in a psychiatric hospital, and she's accused of murder, but she can't remember anything. And so most people have kind of given up on her. Oh, this takes place in the mid to late 1800s. And then a new doctor comes in, and he really wants to get her story out of her, and so he tries really hard to connect with her. She has lost the ability to speak, or she's chosen not to speak for like a really long time after all these tragic events that happen. And so the doctor decides that he's going to encourage her to write instead of speak. And so he gives her the tools to write, and he says, tell me, or write the story down for me as if you were not part of it, like write it in the third person. And so she believes that this doctor is going to help her finally. And so she lets herself remember, and it comes back in flashes. And so that's where the other two timelines come in, because she writes what happened to her, which was, you know, in the past, as if she's in third person. And so every time that happens, she, you know, it's in third person. And then you jump back in time a couple hundred years from that sometimes, because the characters in her telling are also reading a journal that is from an ancestor. And so what starts to unravel is this ghost story, basically, where she gets married against all odds. She's kind of, you know, been put on the shelf, if you will, because she's so old for that time period, you know, and she's not married. And so she gets married, and she loses her husband, but not before she becomes pregnant. And so she's mourning her husband. She's pregnant with his baby, and her brother ships her off to her late husband's like country estate in England, which is creepy. Nobody wants to be there. Like the servants don't want to be there, the villagers don't want to be there, nobody wants to be there, and she can't figure out why. And then one of her late husband's cousins comes to stay with her as a companion, and together they go searching this house, just kind of exploring, and they find a locked room that they can't get into. They try really hard. Eventually they're able to get in, and they find a wooden panel that is painted with a person on it, right? So it's called a silent companion. And they think this is like a beautiful work of art. And so they take it out of this locked up room and into the main living area. And the staff is like kind of horrified by this, but they don't see anything wrong with it. They think it's fascinating. And then some really creepy stuff starts to happen. And I'm going to leave it there because if I say much more, then it's going to give it away. So I'm not going to give it away, but I thought it was very good. I think I gave it, let's see, what I give it? Yeah, I gave it 4.5 paws. So I thought it was really good. I thought it was creepy. I was, kind of reading it with anticipation. I was like, a couple of times I read it in bed at night with, with just like a tiny light on, and like I got a little creeped out. So I enjoyed it quite a bit. I thought it was great. It would be a great read for this coming fall if you want something creepy, not too creepy. I mean, it wasn't like terribly creepy. I wasn't like hiding under my blanket or anything, but yeah, there's a bit of a creep factor. Okay, and then so if I'm telling you the order, the next 2 books that I listened to were the books from Nora Roberts, the audiobooks. So then the next book I have on this list is actually an ARC that I DNF'd. It's called The Nanny's Handbook for Magic and Managing Difficult Dukes. So like I said, this is an ARC. Its published date is September 30th. I read about 22% of it before I decided to stop reading it. So I'm going to rate it at 3 paws. And here's why. I didn't hate the book. I didn't DNF it because I hated it. I could see myself liking it. I think the main issue with the book is I might have just like picked it up at the wrong point of time for kind of the mood that I was in. I enjoyed the characters. It's a book that is about this nannying school that has access to fae magic. And it's not well known. The magic is hush-hush, but the nannies are kind of like, Mary Poppins nannies, if you will. And so one of these nannies, Emmeline Chase, has just graduated from I think it's the Parasol Academy or something. It's got the word parasol in it. And she finds herself accidentally being transported to this duke's house when she meant to go somewhere else. There's like a traveling system within the magic system. So, she says something and then it like takes her somewhere else that she's not supposed to go. And so they keep running into each other. Turns out he has 3 children who are his wards. They're not his own children. I think they're his nieces and nephews who, turn through nannies really quickly, and there's a spark between them, and so he ends up hiring her as his nanny. And I got just to the point where they were discovering that there was some, chemistry between them, and she was just getting to know the 3 children that she was hired to take care of. And there's, a little bit of magic and mayhem throughout. One of the main things that I struggled with this book is the extremely long chapters. Every single chapter was very, very long. It took me 20, 30, 40 minutes to read. And for some reason, that felt really slow to me. I can't really tell you why. And yeah, it felt like it took a long time for the story to get going. I was finding myself putting that book down and choosing other books. And I stuck with it for a while. But, I thought about it and I realized if I'm putting this book down in favor of other books that I was finishing like entirely, and then I would come back and pick this book up, I'm probably not going to finish this one anytime soon. So I've DNF'd it for now. I might go back to it in the future and restart it or just finish it if I can remember enough later if I find myself in the mood for that book. But if you like that type of romantic comedy, Mary Poppins feel, then I would definitely recommend picking this one up when it comes out because I think it would be really good for you. All right, the next book that I have to talk about is another ARC that I was really lucky to get my hands on, I think. It's Wild Reverence by Rebecca Ross, and it is publishing on September 2nd. So this book I rated 5 paws. I loved it. a lot. I had never read a Rebecca Ross novel before. I have one of them. I have Divine Rivals. It came in one of my Owl Crate fantasy boxes like a long time ago, and I had no idea. I never read it. But so I got this arc. I had no idea that it was a prequel to the Divine Rivals duology that came out a while back. And so I walked into it with like none of this knowledge. And Wild Reverence was actually the book that I kept picking up in lieu of the other one, the one that I DNF'd. I kept being drawn to the other one. And so I was like, okay, I can take a hint. All right, I'm not into the nanny book, but I am very much into Wild Reverence. And so it is, like I said, it's a prequel, but you don't need to know anything about Divine Rivals to read the book. It is the origin story of the goddess Matilda and her mortal love, Vincent. And so it takes us through Matilda's birth. It explains this like fascinating kind of magic system within the gods' realms. So there's 3 realms in this book. There's the Skywards, which are the gods that live in the sky. There's the mortal realm, which is the realm of man. And then there's the underlings, which is the, below ground dwellings of some gods. And so I think it takes a lot of inspiration from Greek mythology. There are no overlapping names or anything like that, but it's polytheistic, right? So there's a bunch of gods, a god of war and a god of anything you can think of, And so Matilda is born. She's the last goddess to be born. And she's born from a union of a skyward and an underling, which is not supposed to happen. And so her father is a skyward, and he does not want his name known. And so when Matilda is born, they do like a prophecy, and her mother can't give the name of the god. And so the prophecy doesn't really get completed. But every god that's born has a certain amount of stars to their name, and they each have their own constellation. And so the mother is hoping that Matilda is going to kind of be a blending in sort of person. She doesn't want to draw attention to her daughter. And so, there's a lot of interaction with death and fate. So early on, when Matilda is young, she's like 10 or 12, something like that. One of her mom's friends, they're all gods and goddesses, in her mom's alliance, gives her dream scrolls. And so she reads these scrolls, and they describe a boy, and she's like fascinated with this mortal boy who sees her in his dreams. So they meet in his dreams, and then eventually they meet in real life, and it kind of goes from there. It tells their love story, which is really well done. It's not happy. It's not like completely happy. There are some really bittersweet moments. They have, both Matilda and Vincent, they have a lot of baggage that they have to overcome in order to come together. And so, they're apart, and then they're together, and then they're apart, and then they're together. And like, there's this constant like push and pull, and there's constantly other things getting in their way. There's wars, and there's other gods, and there's time and commitments and things that are constantly getting in their way. And then at the very end, there is a very small tie-in to, I think, the beginning of Divine Rivals, and it goes from there. And so, like I said, you don't really have to know Divine Rivals to enjoy this book. But I personally really enjoyed it. Even though it was very much a fantasy novel, there was enough of it rooted in the mortal world and or drawn from other pieces of mythology that I'm familiar enough with that nothing was too difficult for me to understand personally. But when I was younger, I was like super into Greek mythology, Roman mythology, Egyptian mythology, all that stuff. I was fascinated by it for years. And so I'm very familiar with those types of stories. And so it felt like a really kind of, comforting fit for me. And so if you like those types of stories, like I said, it's not based on Greek mythology. It is its own mythology, but it draws a lot, I think, from those existing mythologies. I think you'll really enjoy this book, regardless of whether or not you have read Divine Rivals or not. All right, there's 3 more books left, and the next one that I read is Holly Jackson's latest book, Not Quite Dead Yet. So this is another murder mystery, but it's done a little differently. This is not a YA novel. It's meant to be an adult novel, although I would kind of characterize it more like new adult rather than adult. So in this book, we follow Jet, who I hated, by the way. In the first chapter, I could not stand her. I was like, wow, we hate the main character already. This is going to be a problem. But we follow Jet, who is, you know, a really just kind of nasty person. I'm going to be honest. She's a rhymes with witch. And so, yeah, I really didn't like her at first. But it's Halloween night, and she's at like a county fair or a town fair or something like that. And she runs into her ex-boyfriend who had broken up with her recently, or she broke up with him. I can't remember. They were broken up recently. And it's like an uncomfortable conversation. And later that night, she goes home, and she's kind of the black sheep of the family. But she goes home to her parents' residence, and someone else is there. She has no idea, and she gets whacked in the head a few times. And a man who she's known since she was a child finds her, calls 911. They all think she's dead. And she isn't. She's like mostly, but not quite dead yet. That's where the title comes from. So when she wakes up in the hospital, she finds out, yes, you did survive. You had a major traumatic brain injury, but, you know, we did the best we could. And she's like, great. But everyone looks really sad. The doctor, her parents, everyone's really sad. And she's like, but you just gave me great news. I survived. And the doctor says, no, there's one more thing we have to tell you. And so basically, they say that the damage is so extensive that, yes, she is alive right now, but she's not going to be in about a week. Because of the extensive damage, combined with a kind of medical condition that she had prior to getting attacked, those two things combine to basically give her kind of, you know, not a lot of time. And I'm dancing around it because I don't want to tell you what it actually is. So she's given a week, and the doctor says we could do a surgery. It's very risky. I don't want to do the surgery. I don't encourage the surgery, but I'm willing to do it if you want. And Jet decides, no, you know, I haven't done much with my life, and I've only got 7 days, so I'm going to do one good thing in my life. I am going to solve my own murder before I die. And so that is the beginning of the story. And so it's told in each individual day. And, you know, it unfolds a lot like a lot of other crime thriller mysteries. And it, you know, it's really good. I gave it 5 paws, I think. Did I? I don't remember. Yeah, no. Yes, I did. I think it's very good. I enjoyed it quite a bit. It was very difficult for me to put down. The reason that I enjoyed it is probably going to be a lot different from what a lot of other people say, what a lot of other reviewers say about this book. The thing that I really enjoyed the most is how accurate Holly Jackson was in her capturing what it is like to live with a traumatic brain injury. So Chet, you know, the 7 days, the week, whatever, that she has to live, it's not without some damage. And so one thing in particular that starts happening to her is she starts using the wrong words or forgetting her words. She's in the middle of a conversation and she can't remember the word that she wants to say, and she just stops talking. In her brain, she can't remember what things are called, common things. She can't remember what a phone charger is called. She can't remember a lot of things, or she uses the wrong word. That actually happens to me a lot because as a result of my brain injury. It comes and goes. Sometimes it doesn't happen for weeks or months. And then other times it happens several times in a day. I had a day last week where my family actually got really worried about me because I was doing it a lot. And I had no idea. And when it happens, you don't know. Someone else has to tell you. I will find a word that starts with the same letter of the word I'm looking for, but I won't use the right word. It'll be completely wrong. Or I'll hear the wrong thing. I'll think I'm hearing the right thing, and then I'll be confused. But then everyone else around me says, that's not what that person said. It's a bizarre thing. It's frustrating when it happens. And so, Holly Jackson, if you ever see this video, I just want you to know that you did your research very well as far as what it is like to live with a traumatic brain injury. Because I really, as much as I hated Jet in the beginning, I could really identify with her almost the whole way of the book. And so I think that's probably what pushed the book from like a 4.5 to a 5 for me. I really identified with what she was going through and like her struggles and her memory issues. She starts to have a lot of memory issues and things, and I have those sometimes. And yeah, it's like a little cathartic to read that in a book, even though it's a fictional character, one that's really well researched. It just really does a good job of kind of illustrating what my life is like a lot of times. So if you are at all curious what it's like to live with a traumatic brain injury, even though it's a short time frame in the book, pick up Not Quite Dead Yet, and you will get a very good idea of what that is like. Okay, I have 2 more books. They are both ARCs. One of them is called The Reluctant Reaper, which is being published on November 11th, and I rated that a 4.5 paws. I really enjoyed this book. It would be a great fall read for anyone who's looking for, a supernatural book, but like that's lighthearted. The Reluctant Reaper is about a girl named Amara, who is the daughter of Death and the goddess of fertility. And she does not want her dad's job. And so when she comes of age, she leaves her parents' house and goes off to make her own way in the world. She's very good at kind of isolating herself and not making a lot of friends and not really putting herself out there, because every time she meets someone, she knows the exact day and time of their death and the manner of their death. And so it makes her, super depressed. She has one exception, her best friend, Graham Gray, who is, a happy-go-lucky kind of guy. He's like a little bit comedic relief, a little bit goofy, a little bit brings her back down to earth kind of person. And so her life is bumping along. She's in a series of dead-end jobs, as is her choice. She likes to work at dead-end jobs. When she gets word from another death god who comes to visit her that her dad has fallen ill, and she doesn't believe him. She's like, my dad is death. What are you talking about? My dad can't die. And this other death god named LaCroix, he's like, no, for real. Your dad's like really sick. You really need to come and visit him. So she says, okay, fine. So she and Gray go back to her house, where there is this zany cast of characters. Various death gods, Hades and Persephone make an appearance. And so there's a mystery surrounding why her dad is so ill. She doesn't understand it. And then eventually he falls ill enough that she has to kind of take over his duties for a little while. And since she is reluctant, she does not want to. There is a whole lot in this book. It's fantasy, there's, supernatural. It's not too much though. It's very grounded in our world. There's humor, there's mystery, there is, some, again, poignant moments. I thought this was very entertaining. It was a very good book. It was hard to put down. Overall, it was just a very light book. It didn't require a whole lot of thinking or processing. It was just very fun. So if you're looking for a fun fall book, look for that one. I highly recommend it. The last one I have to tell you about is also an ARC called All We Have Is Time, and I just finished that one earlier today, actually. It is not going to be published for several months. It's not coming out until February 24th, 2026, so we're a little ways away. So I got it very early, but I rated this one 5 paws. I loved it. I won't tell you too much about it simply because it is not going to be published for several months. So in a few months, I will revisit this book because I loved it so much. But just to give you the bare bones synopsis, it asks the question, what if an immortal woman falls in love with a time traveler? What happens? I love this book. The writing I thought was very good. This is a debut novel for the author, Amy Tordoff, I think is her name. It takes you through all kinds of time periods. So I wouldn't call this a dual timeline. It's not really a dual timeline because there is time travel involved. And sorry, Tucker is like pacing back and forth. Tucker, come here. Come here. What's wrong? Hi. What's the matter? Hi. What's up? Are you okay? Come here, lay down. Oh no. Oh no, what's wrong with Tucker? Yeah, so it's not a dual timeline. It just jumps around in time. It takes you to the past, it takes you to the future, and there's just moments in time. It's told in individual days, and so each of the chapters are just certain dates in time. It's a really beautiful love story that made me cry towards the end. It has a bittersweet ending, but I don't think it could have ended any other way. So if you are interested in a romantic, time-traveling, historical fiction / science fiction book, look for that one coming out next year, and I'll probably talk about it more in a video closer to the publishing date. But again, I thought it was really, really good. So if you like those types of stories, I would highly recommend it. All right, so that is it. That is what I've been reading all summer. For those of you wondering what the problem was with Tucker, he needed to go outside and he couldn't wait until I was done filming. So I took a little break and I let him out. Let me know in the comments below what you have been reading this summer, if you read any of the books that I did, or if you read different books, which one was your favorite, which one did you DNF if there were any, or which one was your least favorite? Let me know in the comments below. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you want to see more of this content, please feel free to like and subscribe to my channel. I really appreciate all the support. I have no idea what the final runtime is on this video, but I'm gonna guess it's a lot longer than I intended for it to be, so I'm really sorry about that. But I hope it was entertaining, and I hope maybe you found some books that sound interesting to you for you to add to your TBR. If any of them do, let me know which ones you're planning on adding down below. I hope you have a great day, and I will see you next time. Bye!